Okay, let's talk about India's tech scene. For years, we've thought of it as the world's back office, right? A giant in IT services, but something fundamental is changing. A completely new story is taking shape, one that's not built on services, but on really deep, hard science. Let's dive into what's going on.
So, let's start with a number, $2.3 billion. That is the amount of funding that got poured into Indian deep tech startups in just 1 year. And look, this isn't just a small bump. It's a massive wave of capital that signals a huge new bet on India's core tech future.
And get this, it's not just a one-time thing. That $2.3 billion, it represents a 37% jump in funding year over year. That shows some incredible momentum. This isn't a slow burn. It's a trend that is accelerating fast, and it's all fueled by this renewed confidence in startups that are tackling really difficult science-first problems.
So, where is all this cash actually going? Well, the answer is kinda shocking. A staggering 91% of it went into a single sector, artificial intelligence. Now, why the obsession? It's because AI is seen as this foundational technology, a platform that's going to reshape pretty much every other industry out there, from medicine to defense. It has become the central idea, the core thesis driving this whole deep tech boom. All of this points to a much bigger picture. What we're really seeing here is India's tech revolution 2.0. It's this pivotal, massive shift from what we knew as the app economy to something totally new, the atom economy.
And this isn't just a small tweak, it's a complete change in mindset. The app economy on the left was all about building consumer apps, getting users as fast as possible, and quick turnarounds. The new atom economy on the right, it's a different beast entirely. The focus is on deep science, on R&D, and on creating intellectual property that's tough to copy, building these really strong, long-term technological advantages.
Okay, and before we go any further, let's just make sure we're on the same page. When we say deep tech, what are we actually talking about? We're talking about startups that are building really advanced stuff based on actual scientific research or major engineering breakthroughs. Think AI, designing semiconductors, robotics, advanced materials, things that are fundamentally hard to do and even harder to replicate.
This shift isn't just happening in some niche startup meetings. It has become a full-blown national conversation. This really provocative question from India's Commerce Minister perfectly captured the feeling in the air. It highlighted this ambition to move beyond just consumer services and start building the foundational tech of the future.
So the ambition is clearly there, but what's actually fueling this fire? Well, the first major force is private capital. Plain and simple, the money is following the tech.
And this right here, this is a huge deal. The old VC model was all about quick flips and fast returns, but deep tech just doesn't work that way. So now investors are developing what's being called patient capital. They're embracing the long haul, the 7 to 12-year journey it takes for these science-based companies to really mature. Why? Because they see the massive, massive payoff at the end of that road.
So who are these new investors? Well, it's a really fascinating crew. You've got experienced entrepreneurs, the same folks who built billion-dollar app companies who are now pivoting to start deep tech ventures themselves. You have specialized VC funds popping up that only focus on deep tech, and powerful groups like the India Deep Tech Alliance have formed, pooling over $1 billion. And maybe most importantly, more of this money is domestic, which means less reliance on funding from overseas.
But look, private money is only one side of the coin. The other major force here is a massive coordinated push from the government itself, all aimed at building what they call a sovereign tech stack.
And when I say a push, I mean they are putting some serious money on the table. The scale of public investment here is just staggering. You've got the RDI fund with roughly $12 billion for high-risk research. The IndiaAI Mission adds over $1.2 billion to create an entire AI ecosystem. And the semiconductor mission is committing nearly $10 billion just to encourage chip manufacturing.
But it's not just about throwing money at the problem, right? There's a real strategy here, a multi-step plan. Step 1, the IndiaAI Mission is basically leveling the playing field, offering startups access to over 38,000 powerful GPUs at cheaper rates. Step 2, the semiconductor mission is all about building the foundational hardware at home. And step 3, national policies are creating a friendlier environment with things like extended tax breaks and clearer rules.
Okay, so we've got the ambition, we've got the money flowing from both the private sector and the government. Everything sounds great, right? Well, not so fast. It's time for a dose of reality. because the road ahead is packed with some pretty significant hurdles. So let's start with this chart, because it puts things in perspective really quickly. Right now, India spends just 0.64% of its GDP on research and development. Now compare that to the US, which is at nearly 3%, or China at around 2.4%. The commitment in India is definitely growing, but it's pretty clear they're still playing catch-up on the world stage.
Now, let's talk about the actual journey for a deep tech startup. It's a marathon, not a sprint. The road from a lab experiment to a full-scale commercial product can easily take over a decade. And right there in the middle, between years 5 and 7, you hit this critical gap in funding, what people call the valley of death, and that's where so many promising companies just run out of gas.
So to break it down, here are the key challenges the whole system is up against. Beyond that critical funding gap, there's a talent problem. India needs more specialized research scientists, not just software engineers. We're also seeing that great ideas from universities often get stuck and don't make it to the market. And even when they do, Indian startups can face a big valuation gap compared to their counterparts in Silicon Valley. And to really put this all in perspective, that $2.3 billion raised in India is awesome. It's a huge step. But in the same year, deep tech startups in the US raised $147 billion. And in China, they raised $81 billion. It just highlights the sheer scale of the mountain India still has to climb. So yeah, the challenges are real. They are huge. But despite all of that, the long-term vision isn't just there. It's rock solid. This is all about building the future and really defining India's ambition on the world stage.
You have to understand, this is about way more than just economic growth. The ultimate goal here is strategic freedom. It's about achieving sovereign AI, building their own AI models and infrastructure, and getting to what India calls Atmanirbhar Bharat, which basically means a self-reliant India. It's about controlling your own technological destiny.
And they've set some incredibly specific and frankly jaw-dropping goals. We're talking about becoming a top 3 semiconductor nation by 2035, achieving domestic manufacturing of super advanced 2-nanometer chips, and becoming a trusted, reliable partner in global supply chains through initiatives like the one with the US.
But at the end of the day, all the policies and all the funding announcements, they're just steps along the way. The real measure of success, the true test, will be seeing Indian deep tech companies that don't just succeed at home, but that actually thrive and compete on the global stage. That is the final proof point.
Which brings us to our final, critical question. All the pieces are in motion, the ambition is crystal clear, and the stakes are absolutely enormous. Will this great recalibration really work? Will it transform India from the world's back office into its next great innovation powerhouse? Only time will tell. Thanks for joining this explainer.